even know if I'm going to do an intro here, but anyway, welcome to maybe this might go on the Imagining Infinite Imagination podcast with Isaac. I don't know what a podcast is, but I was just eating a quesadilla that I made from scratch. I didn't grow the plants, but I was making my own tortillas from masa, and I've got a lot of work to do today, but I felt all this gripping in my chest, and I just couldn't. I was like, I cannot work right now. I need to figure out what's going on here with this. Like, why am I so anxious? What's happening? And then as I was eating, suddenly it struck me that social media and social networking are very analogous to synapses in a brain. And this isn't really surprising, and it's kind of obvious, and yet the implications of it are completely blowing my mind right now. I've just been buzzing. Setting up my microphone and camera here kind of killed my vibe, and there's a huge amount of cable, so I'll see if I can get back in the flow. But I think me understanding this is going to completely change how I interact with social media, and I hope this also provides some insight for some other people that are, and maybe even inspires some more people to start using social media but with a different intention. So if you take this analogy, a brain has a bunch of neurons and they're connected via synapses. And when a neuron fires, some other neurons may fire, and they will fire because there will be an impulse that travels along the synapses. And if the synapses are strong enough or enough neurons fire at the right time, it will result in another neuron firing. I probably should look this up if I really wanted to explain how brains work, but that the exact specifics don't matter right now. What matters is the pattern that's similar. So in social media or in any kind of interaction, you have ideas and you share them with words or video or something with other people. And if the other person is interested enough, they may share those ideas with their friends. That's almost like a neuron firing, but rather than just this sort of presumably relatively simple on-off firing, the richness of information that passes between people is far greater when the synapses are actually human relationships. And I guess the synapses are the human relationships, and there may be a physical medium which carries the impulses between people. So maybe it's the internet, maybe it's the phone, maybe it's books, maybe it's oral traditions. Either way, that the topology is in the shape of the information flow between people has shifted. And now we're at a point on this planet where almost any neuron or any person can reach any other person or conscious being on the planet. Not everyone, and there are a couple of barriers still. There are different languages that we speak, there is censorship, there are different firewalls, there are different things that prevent full connectivity, but overall this full connectivity of all of the people on the planet is actually very analogous to what I think happens in a deep meditative experience or in any sort of experience that encourages neuroplasticity. I recall an article that when people take psychedelic drugs like psilocybin, which is one of the key observable things that happens in the brain, is that way more neurons are firing and they're able to interact with neurons that they may typically not interact with. And now it's happening on a global scale because of the internet, is that people who wouldn't interact before are now interacting. So it's almost like technology is serving as a lubricant that enables neuroplasticity but at a global scale. So it's almost like technology itself is behaving like a meditative technology or a psychedelic, a mind manifesting drug, except it's not a drug, it's happening in a very different physical form, but there's some sort of magic that's happening here. And as more people connect, new neural pathways can form, new relationships can form. And because of that, the entire structure of the brain that is the planet can change. And like, okay, so how does it change? Is this random? Like, what is doing the change? And the insight I had was, well, let's just assume that all consciousness is connected. I know that that's maybe a big leap, and it can't necessarily be proven, but if all consciousness is connected, there's actually one I am that is having the experience of being all human beings and operating through all human beings simultaneously. And this consciousness, which some people might like to call God, is currently in the process of rewiring its own brain by, I guess, bringing about the conditions on the planet that create more neuroplasticity in the form of greater connectivity because of the internet. So what am I to do as an individual conscious being? I think the main thing I should do is be aware that this maybe is happening, and now, in a sense, my body and brain are the physical neurons of this giant superorganism that is all people. And if that's the case, my relationship to social media instantly, I mean, it just has, we'll see what happens when I start doing it, has changed, because rather than me looking to create an audience and promote myself and my ideas with sort of some maybe this desire for power or to be seen or whatever traumatic reasons, or to make money because I want a cool car, whatever the reasons that people get into social media and become influencers, suddenly changes drastically, because the goal now isn't to be an influencer that controls the brain. It's to be another neuron that helps pass information between other parts of the brain or the planet that are in the process of evolving. And to do so, what I will do is share and have me as a neuron will fire and release these packets of information, perhaps like this video, and then other people, neurons, will receive this information. And if their unique configuration of now biological neurons has some mutual resonance with those ideas, that will cause them to, as a neuron, to fire and share that information with more people. And this process continues. So now what I'm recognizing is that my role is, again, not to try to influence people to follow me, but to pass information on and be an efficient conduit for the flow of information, of life energy to other people. And if I take this idea a little bit further, it's interesting to see what this looks like. So let's say right now I've got, well, as I'm recording this, about 0 followers. But let's say I had 100,000 followers. When I use that language, it sounds like, oh, I'm a leader and they're followers. And I don't like that, because what I think what's more accurate about what's happening is I am just a node in this large superorganism of all people, and the people that are labeled currently as followers are just other neurons that are interested in receiving this information for their own purposes. And if society or if people shift to the point where many people have many followers, it's now the social relationships change from just these. Well, I could talk about all the different types of social relationships throughout the ages. I mean, at some point people would live in tribes, and you've got this little small social network, kind of like a couple-celled organism, and there was times where everyone followed the. I mean, I wasn't there, but like the history says, everyone followed, I don't know, the church or the king or the pharaoh, or it was very much this top-down information flow where one or a few group of people really dictated, dictation, the information flow that went to all the other people. And as the shape of that information flow keeps changing, it's becoming, went from these little groups of hunter-gatherers to tribes to cities, and then cities have a bit of this hierarchy, and then that changes and technology changes, and these organisms keep evolving and changing shapes until now we have almost the emergence of a global superorganism where the neural pathways or the social networks or the social connections facilitated via modern technology. So with this, I guess I'm encouraging myself and anyone who is inspired by this to get into social media, not to try to influence people or to get famous or make money, but as part of this larger process that's happening where we are becoming these neurons in this global superorganism. And when I think about it that way, it takes off almost all of the pressure of speaking publicly, because now I'm not trying to change anyone, I'm not trying to convince anyone. All I'm doing is just being a vehicle to pass on information, life energy, whatever you want to call it, to other people that may be interested in receiving that for their own purposes and their own growth. And then what's beautiful here is that each individual human being contributes to the larger purpose of the superorganism of the earth growing, and they will thrive and grow as well, because a thriving society, a thriving population of people results in energy flow and for everyone, and everyone can then thrive as an individual being, have and do the things they wish to do, while at the same time helping everyone else do the things they wish to do. Another interesting point of this is, in a human brain, if one neuron tried to become an influencer and control, or even let's say a dictator, and one or two neurons are going to try to control the entire brain, to me that sounds like it doesn't actually happen. And if that were to happen, that sounds like an extremely unhealthy brain, maybe what we'd call a neurosis. So if a human being is governed by a very small subset of the human experience, let's say they're addicted to a really powerful drug, I don't know, an opiate or something. I've never been addicted to opiates, so I can't really speak. Let's just imagine what that's like. Maybe if there's any people who have recovered from opioid addiction, I'd love to talk to you, because that could be fascinating. But maybe what's happening there is a smaller selection of neurons, which are the ones associated with this addiction, end up controlling a large portion of the behavior of the greater being. And all the other neurons that could do other interesting things perhaps are just not being used, or are kind of following the stupid orders of their stupid boss, which they don't understand the greater purpose of. But this other boss, which in this case is the energetic concept of the opioid addiction, or opiate addiction? Opiate. Interesting. Is now the stupid boss or the evil dictator that is trying to make the world support this addiction, when in fact there's so many more experiences that a human being could have. And similarly, if you look out in the world now, maybe there's some really good intentioned people, say that they're working in politics, they're really trying to make the world a better place, but it's from such a limited perspective that they're dictating one view of the world while suppressing all of these, and maybe not intentionally, but they're suppressing all the other billions of voices out there that could contribute to a greater thriving for all beings. So I now see that engaging with social media is not about getting famous or making money, but it's about being a part of the evolution of consciousness and human beings in general. And with that, I've got other stuff to do, and I hope to continue sharing these ideas with whoever you are that's listening.